Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, thumma amma ba'd. To proceed, welcome back, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your Hajj, those of you who are on Hajj. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your ibadah and all of your efforts and your good intention to go to Hajj, inshallah, next time. Today, inshallah, we'll go over the chapter or the station of al-Ghurba, Strange-ness, and that's station number 77. So, alhamdulillah, we're almost there. We have 100 stations. Imam al-Harawi has 100 stations in his book, 10 sections. Every section has 10 stations. We're done with 7 sections, and we're done with 7 stations in section 8. So we only will have, inshallah, 23 stations to finish the book. In the fiqh class, we will have two chapters. One of them is very small, which is the chapter on blockage, and we're going over the fiqh of inheritance. Last time we finished the heirs with designated shares. So the heirs with designated shares, we will go over. We will always be reviewing the heirs with designated shares because that's basically the bulk of inheritance. Today we will talk about another type of heirs, which are the residuary heirs. Sometimes they're called the universal heirs, sometimes they're called residuary heirs. I prefer to call them residuary heirs because it's more descriptive of how they inherit. They inherit the residue. They inherit the remaining estate, if there is anything remaining after the heirs with designated shares. And the chapter on blockage, who blocks who, or who gets blocked by who, is a smaller chapter that will not take much time, and it is also related very much to the chapter on residuary heirs, which is al-Asabat. So we probably should finish them both in one day. Okay, back to al-Ghurba, back to Strange-ness. Al-Ghurba, station number 77, in Manaazil As-Saa'ireen, Stations of the Wayfarers, a book by Imam al-Harawi, in which he describes the stations of that spiritual journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah ta'ala said, قال الله عز وجل فلولا كان من القرون من قبلكم أولو بقية ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض إلا قليلا ممن أنجينا منهم. This is a verse in Surah, or part of the verse in Surah Hud. فلولا كان من القرون من قبلكم, had there only been of the generations before you, those of enduring discrimination. Ulu baqiyya. Baqiyya means what remains, like remaining discrimination, remaining, righteousness, discrimination. They discriminate between good and evil, and they forbid their people from evil, and they ordain them to do good. Discriminate between good and evil is an important characteristic, because once you lose that, you're not going to be able to ordain good or forbid evil. Because if you don't have even the faculty to discriminate between good and evil, which is something that everyone needs to be concerned about, whether they will lose that faculty, whether their biases, personal biases, cultural trends, immersion in their surroundings would make them lose the very faculty of discerning between good and evil. Just like the people of Lot or Qawm Lut, they were unable to discriminate between good and evil. They did perceive evil as good, and they were unable to. They were mocking Lut alayhi salam. So they are making a mockery of Lut because he was ordaining them, or because he was inviting them to wholesomeness, purity, righteousness, and so on. So they're making a mockery of him. So that very faculty, that very ability to discriminate between good and evil, people may lose. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it baqiyya, that which remains, that which is left. فلولا كان من القرون من قبلكم أولو بقية ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض إلا قليلا ممن أنجينا منهم وتبع الذين ظلموا ما أترفوا فيه وكانوا مجرمين. Had there only been of the generations before you those of enduring discrimination, forbidding corruption on earth. ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض, forbidding corruption on earth. إلا قليلا ممن أنجينا منهم, except for a few of those that we have saved of them, or that we have decreed to be saved among them. إلا قليلا ممن أنجينا منهم. واتبع الذين ظلموا ما أترفوا فيه, and those who transgressed or wronged themselves. اتبعوا ما أترفوا فيه means that they have pursued whatever luxuries they were given, whatever luxuries they have that have been given to them. They pursued the luxuries that have been given to them. ما أترفوا فيه. وكانوا مجرمين, and they were criminals, and they were criminals. This particular ayah, some of the mufassirun say that this is tafri' ala ma qablaha. It is branching off from a verse that comes before it in the same surah, like a few verses prior to this verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the believers, فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ وَمَنْ تَابَ مَعَكَ وَلَا تَطْغَوْا إِنَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ ولا تركنوا إلى الذين ظلموا فتمسكم النار فاستقم كما أمرت ومن تاب معك ولا تطغوا. So be upright as you have been commanded. Be upright as you have been commanded. And those who were, be upright as you were commanded, you and those who return to Allah with you. ومن تاب معك إنه بما تعملون بصير, he is all seer, or he sees all that you do. ولا تركنوا إلى الذين ظلموا فتمسكم النار, and do not incline toward those who have transgressed, lest you will be touched by the fire. Do not incline towards those who transgressed, lest you will be touched by the fire. ولا تركنوا إلى الذين ظلموا فتمسكم النار وما لكم من دون الله من أولياء ثم لا تنصرون, and you will have no protectors other than Allah, and then you will not be given support. ثم لا تنصرون. وأقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات ذلك ذكرى للذاكرين واصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. وأقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل, and establish prayers at the two ends of the day and at the approach of the night. وأقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل, and at the approach of the night. ذلك ذكرى للذاكرين. This is a reminder for those who remember. واصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين, and be patient, for Allah will not let the reward of the good doers go to waste, or Allah will not waste the reward of the good doers. فلولا كان من القرون من قبلكم ولو بقية ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض. Had there only been of the generations before you those of enduring discrimination to forbid corruption on earth, إلا قليلا ممن أنجينا منهم, except for a few of those whom we saved of them. واتبع الذين ظلموا ما أترفوا فيه وكانوا مجرمين, and those who transgressed followed the luxuries, whatever luxuries they have been given, and they were criminals. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blaming them for doing is that they did not follow the prescription that is above. So the prescription that was above is فاستقم كما أمرت ومن تاب معك ولا تطغوا إنه بما تعملون بصير ولا تركنوا إلى الذين ظلموا فتمسكم النار وما لكم من دون الله من أولياء ثم لا تنصرون وأقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات ذلك ذكرى للذاكرين واصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين فلولا كان من القرون من قبلكم ولو بقية ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض. So that's the description of Ulu Baqiyya. The Ulu Baqiyya, the people of enduring discrimination, are the people who should have adhered to that prescription, who should have adhered to this commandment. فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ, be upright as you have been commanded. you and those who have returned to Allah with you. كَمَنْ وَمَنْ تَابَ مَعَكَ. Because He is all-seer. He sees all that you do. إِنَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. And do not incline toward the transgressors, toward those who transgress themselves and transgress the others. وَلَا تَرْكَنُوا إِلَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. Do not listen, do not incline to those who have transgressed themselves, who have deviated from the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the divine guidance. وَمَا لَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ مِنْ أَوْلِيَاءَ ثُمَّ لَا تُنصَرُونَ. And you will have no protectors other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you will not be supported. وَأَقَمِ الصَّلَاةَ. And establish prayers at the two ends of the day and at the approach of the night. طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات. Verily good deeds wipe out, or good deeds do away with misdeeds. Good deeds do away with misdeeds. ولا تركنوا وأقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات ذلك ذكرى للذاكرين. That's a reminder for those who remember. واصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. And be patient, for Allah. After all of this, you'll have to be patient, because you will not be left alone if you stay upright and you do not incline toward the oppressors, and you establish the prayers at the two ends of the day and at the approach of the night, and you do all of this, then you will have to be patient, just like always, just like in Surah al-Asr. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Once you have done 1, 2, and 3, you'll have to get ready to be afflicted. 1, آمَنوا. 2, عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. آمَنوا, believed or had faith. 2, did righteousness. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, and enjoined each other to the truth. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. That means they enjoined each other to patience. Patience is going to be needed once you have believed the righteousness and also commanded good, enjoined people to the truth, enjoined people to uprightness. Then you will need patience. So those أولو بقية ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض. This is a very good choice to start the chapter with, or to start the station with. Imam al-Harawi's choices are very clever, always very clever. This is a particularly good choice because he's talking about al-Ghuraba, or the strangers, or the chapter on strange-ness. And although strange-ness is not a word, but when you try to express spiritual or philosophical concepts, you can give yourself some license to basically modify the language a little bit. They used to say that Aristotle tormented or tortured the Greek language because he was trying to express philosophical concepts that Greeks were otherwise not basically aware of, or they did not establish linguistic conventions for. So that's fine. So strange-ness is al-ghurba. It's a very good choice of the Shaykh, because he is saying that the strangers are not just strangers because they just happen to be odd or they happen to be peculiar. They actively chose the path of strange-ness. It is it's a deliberate choice to be strangers, and there are requirements that you need to uphold, and there is a cost that you need to pay. There are requirements that you need to uphold to be one of the strangers, to be entitled to this station of ghurba or stranger-ness, to be a gharib. So it is an active, deliberate choice. As the Prophet ﷺ said to Abdullah ibn Umar, كن في الدنيا كأنك غريب أو عابر سبيل. Be in this life as a stranger or a wayfarer. Stranger or a wayfarer. Stranger is the one who is, he's in town, but he's not from this from town. He's from another place. The wayfarer is someone who is just crossing by. He does not even spend any time. So either this or that, a stranger or a wayfarer. The Prophet ﷺ said to Abdullah ibn Umar. So it is a deliberate choice. It is an active, deliberate choice. There are requirements. It's not that you just found yourself like that. You have made that choice deliberately, willingly. You have chosen to be a stranger. And you are ready to pay the price of your strangerness. The cost of this, you're ready to pay that. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, enjoined each other to patience. So a very good choice of the Shaykh rahimahullah. فلولا كان من القرون من قبلكم أولو بقية ينهون عن الفساد في الأرض إلا قليلا ممن أنجينا منهم. And then he did not mention the rest of the verse. وَاتَّبَعَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مَا أُتْرِفُوا فِيهِ وَكَانُوا مُجْرِمِينَ. So if only there been of the generations even before you, those of enduring discrimination, forbidding corruption on earth, except a few of those we saved from among them. And if you ask who are the people of enduring discrimination, what are the characteristics of the people of enduring discrimination, go up before a few verses up from this, and you will see their description. فاستقم كما أمرت ومن تاب معك ولا تطغوا إنه بما تعملون بصير ولا تركنوا إلى الذين ظلموا فتمسكم النار وما لكم من دون الله من أولياء ثم لا تنصرون وأقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات ذلك ذكر للذاكرين واصبر فإن الله لا يضيع أجر المحسنين. That is the description of أولو بقية, those of enduring discrimination, who will be saved. So the Shaykh said here, الاغتراب أمر يشار به إلى الانفراد عن الأكفاء وهو على 3 درجات. Strangeness refers to one's distinction from their peers, and it is of 3 levels. Strangeness refers to one's distinction from their peers, one's difference from their peers. They are peculiar, unlike, their oddity, peculiarity, difference. You may say idiosyncratic to some extent. So they're very different from their peers. They're very different from their surroundings, and their distinction earns them that entitlement to that station of the strangers, or station of strangerness. And certainly, strangerness, it is not basically interest in oddity. It is not interest in being eccentric or being odd or being peculiar. Absolutely not. It is interest in being upright, in conforming to the divine, in being righteous and upright, even if that resulted in your strangerness. It's not like you enjoy it. It's not like you enjoy the oddity, peculiarity itself. You enjoy it only because it is the cost of uprightness. So you enjoy your uprightness, you enjoy your obedience to Allah, and even the cost of this you still enjoy. But it is not like in and of itself it is something desirable or something that you want, or that you should try to accentuate your eccentricity or your oddity, your peculiarity, your strangeness. You don't try to accentuate it. It's just that you're doing whatever whatever Allah had asked of you, whatever Allah had demanded of you. If that results in strangeness, then be it. But you are not looking to be odd or peculiar. In fact, you're looking to be normal, and you are hoping that everyone around you will seek the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are hoping that everyone around you will seek the path of Allah, so that you don't feel lonely, and so that you have support, so that you have supporters, you have friends, and you don't feel lonely. So being eccentric, being odd is not a pursuit in and of itself. It is a cost, it is a price that you are happily willing to pay when necessary. It's the cost of uprightness, the cost of uprightness, the cost of straightness. If people are crooked and you are straight, you will look crooked. That's what Hanif means. You know, looking crooked because of straightness. That is exactly what Hanif means, to look crooked because you are straight. So that is, it's important, and certainly there are so many hadith, and there's when he talks here about al-ightirab, when he talks about strangeness and refers to the distinction from their peers, he's talking about like a wealth of reports from the Prophet ﷺ, the companions, and the righteous forebears or predecessors about that concept of strangeness. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith reported by Muslim and others with different narrations, بدأ الإسلام غريبا وسيعود غريبا كما بدأ فطوبى للغرباء. Islam started as something strange and it will go back to being strange. Islam started as something strange, غريبا وسيعود غريبا, and it will return to being strange or go back to being strange. فطوبى للغرباء, so blessed are the strangers. فطوبى للغرباء, so blessed are the strangers. And then they asked the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba would always want, ilm nafi', something to act on. So they wanted to know what al-ghuraba, what is the description of al-ghuraba, how will they be like, what will they be like. So they asked the Prophet ﷺ about who are al-ghuraba, and the Prophet ﷺ explained it in different ways. We have different narrations. For instance, we have, and this is sort of in conformity with what we are talking about here, or that particular verse. الذين يصلحون إذا فسد الناس، أو الذين يصلحون ما أفسد الناس، أو الذين يصلحون إذا فسد الناس. So الذين يصلحون إذا فسد الناس, those who basically correct matters when people become corrupt. Those who rectify and correct matters when people become corrupt. Or الذين يصلحون إذا فسد الناس, those who remain righteous when people become corrupt. And the Prophet ﷺ said in another report, الذين يحيون ما أفسد الناس الذين يحيون سنتي, or الذين يصلحون ما أفسد الناس من سنتي. Those who correct my sunnah that people have corrupted, or those who revive my sunnah, when people become corrupted. And the Prophet ﷺ also said, الذين يزيدون إذا نقص الناس. الذين يزيدون إذا نقص الناس. Those who only become more righteous when people become less righteous. So those, when people become less righteous, they only become more righteous. Why? Because they become more concerned. When people become less righteous, when they see more corruption, they become more concerned for themselves. They become more concerned about their future. They become more concerned about their khatimah, their ending. Therefore, they try to be even better when people become less righteous. When people become corrupt, they try to become even better, because they feel that the tide will be higher against them, stronger against them. And they want to sort of immunize themselves. They want to protect their ultimate future in the hereafter. So they even become more righteous as people become less righteous. الذين يزيدون إذا نقص الناس. It literally means those who increase when people decrease, but it means the increase in righteousness when people become less righteous. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Hum an-nuzza' min al-qaba'il," they're the odd ones out of every tribe. So that is in reference to their few numbers or their scarcity. But all the meanings converge around this very meaning of ulu baqiyya and hawn 'ala al-fasadi fil ard, people of remaining, people of enduring discrimination who forbid corruption on earth. When corruption prevails, they are the people who hold on to the divine teachings, message, and forbid corruption when it prevails, or as it prevails. So all of them, point to that particular meaning, and that's the concept of اغتراب or strangeness. Then the Shaykh said, الدرجة الأولى الغربة عن الأوطان وهذا الغريب موته شهادة ويقاس له في قبره من مدفنه إلى وطنه ويجمع يوم القيامة إلى عيسى بن مريم عليه السلام. The first level is separation from the homelands. For this stranger, his death is martyrdom. He will have the distance between his homeland and his tomb measured in his grave, and he will be united on the day of resurrection with Jesus, son of Mary, alayhi salam, peace be upon him. So he's talking, so al-ghurba here, it's either physical or spiritual. It's either the physical ghurba, the ghurba of the body, the ghurba of the physique, the body, or the ghurba of the state, the ghurba of the spirit. Both of them are ghurba. They're considered forms of strangeness. And some people may have the ghurba of the body, and some people may have the ghurba of the spirit, and some people may have both, the ghurba of the body and the ghurba of the spirit. He started with the ghurba of the body. The ghurba of the body is neutral. It's not necessarily inherently commendable, right? Because the ghurba of the body, you could be pursuing whatever you could be pursuing something that is even wicked, and be a gharib among the people, or a stranger away from your homeland. Being away from your homeland is not necessarily commendable per se. So it's neutral. It depends on what you are gharib for, or what the strangeness is for. If the strangeness is for, permissible things, then it is permissible. If it is for commendable things or recommended things, then it is recommended. Obligatory things, then it's obligatory. So it depends on what that strangeness is for. If you are, away from the homeland, because if you, for instance, decide to move to Texas, why are you moving to Texas? You got a better job? That's permissible. You could say, it may be somewhat commendable, somewhat encouraged if you combine, say you have like some good feelings that this job will make me capable of supporting my family, this job would give me more time for my, other interests, my ibadah, and so on, etc., etc. So it may be somewhat, but, by default it is just permissible. To move for the dunya, it is permissible. If you move for like a better reason, then it is commendable. Some people immigrate because of they fear for their deen, and they run away with their deen. One of the descriptions of al-ghuraba that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in one of the reports, al-farraruna bidinihim, those who are always on the run for their deen, to protect their deen, so they're always on the run. To be a stranger, in this sense, depends on the intent, the purpose, the cause of that strangeness, what brought you to that place. And but at least if it is permissible, or better. So permissible, recommended, obligatory. So you are a gharib for something permissible, something recommended, and something mandatory. Then even if it is permissible, your ghurba is just permissible, it is hoped that you will enjoy those bounties from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your death will be martyrdom. A distance or a space in the heaven will be measured for you between your birthplace and the place, your death place, or the place where you died. The Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith reported by Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, when he was burying one of the Sahaba who was born in Medina, he said, had he only died away from his birthplace. And then the Sahaba wondered why. He said, إن الرجل إذا مات في غير مولده قيس له من مولده إلى منقطع أثره في الجنة. So he said that when a man dies away from his birthplace, a space or a distance between his birthplace and his place of death will be measured for him in paradise. In paradise. Hadith was reported with controversial authenticity, but you could say some authenticated it, and it has shawahid, it has corroborative reports as well. But so you could say that the Prophet ﷺ is encouraging people to seek that which is good for them, whether it is in this life or the hereafter, away from their homeland, if there is a need. If there is a need. If there is no need, it's like moving away from your homeland for no purpose is not necessarily commendable per se. But if there is a need to move away, whether for the benefit of your deen or the benefit of your dunya, then inshallah your death will be martyrdom, and you will be given a space in paradise that's as wide as the distance between your birthplace and your place of death will be granted to you. ويجمع يوم القيامة إلى عيسى بن مريم عليه السلام, and he will be united on the day of resurrection with Jesus, son of Mary. Why in particular? So each one of those 3 points, his death will be martyrdom, the distance between his birthplace and death place will be measured for him in paradise, and he will be reunited with Jesus, son of Mary. All of them were reported from the Prophet ﷺ with somewhat controversial authenticity. The most established is the one in the middle. A place will be measured for them in paradise between their birthplace and their death place. But all of them have been reported from the Prophet ﷺ with some controversial authenticity. But why Jesus particularly, alayhi salam, Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam, Jesus, son of Mary, peace be upon him? Because he had the fewest number of disciples out of the 5 Rusul Ulil Azm, out of the 5 messengers with great resolve. Al-Masih alayhi salam had the fewest number of disciples, if you remember. So Nuh, Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Out of the 5, who had the fewest number of disciples? Isa alayhi salam. And he was also on the run, with for his deen. So people would be those people who are on the run for the deen would be reunited with him. That does not mean that you will not be reunited with the Prophet ﷺ. Certainly, that would be that's out of the question. But the symbolism here is that you will be reunited with the Prophet who had the fewest, who felt the loneliest, and had the fewest number of disciples, and was always on the run for his deen. So some of you, some of you may have experienced this ghurba. Some of you are born here. Some of you feel some of you immigrated here. But all of you, you have to some extent a type of ghurba because you live within a non-Muslim majority, and sometimes you look different and you're perceived as different. You're being always otherized, as they say. So being always otherized makes you feel a little bit different and makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. But keep in mind that ghurba is not about morbidity. Being morbid is not about sadness. And you could be happy in your ghurba, in your strangerness, idiosyncrasy. You could be still happy even if you're perceived as odd or different, or if you're otherized. In fact, Imam Taymiyyah rahimahullah had this, he had this statement about the people who live within non-Muslim majority. He said, وَلِذَلِكَ تجد المسلمين المتمسكين بدينهم في ديار الكفار لهم السعادة كلما كانوا أكثر تمسكا بدينهم فإن دخل عليهم الشر فبذنوبهم حتى إنك تجد المشركين وأهل الكتاب إذا رأوا المسلم المتمسك بدينه أو القائم بدينه عظموه وأكرموه وأعفوه من الأعمال التي يكلفون بها المنتسبين إلى الإسلام ممن لا يتمسكون بحقيقته أو ممن لا يعملون بحقيقته. So Imam Taymiyyah rahimahullah said that this is just like a beautiful statement about the Muslims. He said that's why you find the Muslims who adhere to their deen in the non-Muslim lands or lands of unbelief. He said in the lands of unbelief you find the Muslims who are adhering or who are upholding their deen. Sa'ada or happiness will be their lot. They will be happy as long as, or as much as, or congruent with, their happiness will be congruent with their adherence to their deen. The more adherent to their deen, the happier they become, because it's an internal thing. It's not the giddy indifference, lack of concern. It is the internal, it is the inner peace and contentment. And that is why people always have a little bit of a problem understanding this. So people who are righteous or upright in the midst of people who are not practicing, how could they be happy? It's the inner peace and contentment. It is not the giddy indifference or lack of concern. So you will find them, he said, the more practicing, the more they adhere to their deen, the happier they become. Otherwise, you'll find the people who do not adhere to their deen, they'll have all kinds of identity crises, and they'll just be very unhappy as a minority until they leave completely, and then they become the unhappiest. But when they are on the fence, they are very uncomfortable on the fence. Being on the fence makes you extremely uncomfortable. But people who are upholding their deen, adhering to their deen, they'll be happy. فَإِنْ دَخَلَ عَلَيْهِمُ الشَّرُّ فَبِذُنُوبِهِمْ. So if evil befalls them, the Muslim minorities in non-Muslim lands, if evil befalls them, it is because of their sins. It is because of their sins. And then he says that you will find that the polytheists and the people of the book, when they see some Muslim who upholds his deen, truly, genuinely adheres to his deen, they will honor them, they will عظموه وأكرموه, they elevate them, they honor them, وأعفوه من الأعمال التي يكلفون بها المنتسبين إلى الإسلام من غير العاملين بحقيقته. So they honor them, they elevate them, and then they even exempt them of sort of demeaning work or jobs that they demand of those who profess Islam without adhering to its essence. Those who profess Islam without adhering to its essence. The Muslim who is truly Muslim, inside and out, the Muslim who is truly Muslim within and without is going to be elevated and honored even by people who do not profess Islam, because they will recognize, their genuine righteousness. They will recognize their manners. They will recognize their etiquette. They will recognize the taste of Islam, the order of Islam in them, not just the basically sort of affiliation or just professing the religion without acting upon its teachings. So ghurba, strangerness in this respect, does not necessarily mean grief or depression or sadness. It means the very opposite: contentment, peace, confidence. Then the Shaykh, so we're done with this. The first ghurba is the ghurba of the body, when you are in the midst of people when you are away from your homeland, But keep in mind that being away from your homeland applies to everyone in this life. Your true homeland is what? Al-Jannah. فحي على جنات عدن فإنها منازلك الأولى وفيها المخيم ولكننا سبي العدو فهل ترى نعود إلى أوطاننا ونسلم وقد زعموا أن الغريب إذا نأى وشطت به أوطانه فهو مغرم وأي اغتراب فوق غربتنا التي لها أضحت الأعداء فينا تحكموا. So Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, says then come on to gardens of Eden. Come on to gardens of Eden. فإنها منازلك الأولى, because it is your homeland. The gardens of Eden, it is your homeland. وفيها المخيم, and it has your campsite. And there is the campsite. ولكننا سبي العدو, but we are the captives of the enemy, the shaitan who got us out of the Jannah. We are the captives of the enemy. فهل ترى, then do you think that we will return to our homeland? وَنُسَلَّمُ, and then we'll be saved. وَقَدْ زَعَمُوا أَنَّ الْغَرِيبَ إِذَا نَأَى, and they say that when the stranger goes far, meaning far away from their homeland, وَشَطَّتْ بِهِ أَوْطَانُهُ, and their homeland becomes so distant, فَهُوَ مُغْرَمُ, then they will be always impatiently eager to go back. وأي اغتراب فوق غربتنا, and then is there any strangeness worse than our strangeness? التي لها أضحت الأعداء فينا تحكموا, because of which the enemies have control over us. We're so weak. We have the vain desires, we have the weaknesses that makes our enemy have control over us. And then that is the worst type of strangeness. So we're all strangers, even if you are in your sort of worldly homeland, your birthplace in this world. You're still a stranger, because you should not feel belonging here. You don't belong here, and you should always be seeking the first homeland, the original homeland. Then the Shaykh talks about غربة الحال. الدرجة الثانية غربة الحال. The second level is the distinction of the hal. And so this is the spiritual one. Now this is the sort of the peculiarity of the state, or the strangeness of the state, even if you are in your homeland among your family members and your friends. But if you have a different state, different himma, different aspiration, then you will feel that strangeness. غربة الحال. وهذا من الغرباء الذين طوبى لهم. The second level is the distinction of the hal, and this stranger is of those promised blessedness. Those promised blessedness, tuba, blessedness, ultimate reward. وهو رجل صالح في زمان فاسد بين قوم فاسدين أو عالم بين قوم وهو رجل صالح في زمان فاسد بين قوم فاسدين أو عالم بين قوم جاهلين أو صديق بين قوم منافقين. So that person who has that strangeness of his hal or his state, it's a righteous man in a corrupt time among corrupt people, or a scholar among ignorant people, or an honest man among hypocrites. So generally speaking, they all overlap. They are interdependent, but they're different. There are differences. So not every ignorant person is a hypocrite, but the meaning is obvious. It is a righteous man among corrupt people. It is a truthful man, a genuine, truthful man among hypocrites, or it is a knowledgeable man among ignorant people. So that is the ghurba of the state, and that is why is he saying tuba lahum? And this stranger is of those promised the blessedness, because he thinks, or he, warrantedly, appropriately, rightfully thinks that this is what the hadith talks about. This type of ghurba, the ghurba, spiritual ghurba, or the ghurba of the state, is what the hadith is talking about. فَطُوبَى لِلْغُرَبَاء بَدَأَ الْإِسْلَامُ غَرِيبًا وَسَيَعُودُ غَرِيبًا كَمَا بَدَأَ فَطُوبَى لِلْغُرَبَاء. Islam started as something strange, and it will return back to being, or go back or return to being strange. Then blessed are the strangers. So he thinks the hadith applies to this particular group of ghuraba, or strangers, those who have distinction of their hal, or their inner state. And as we said, the different meanings of the hadith, those who become more righteous when people become less righteous, those who forbid evil when people become corrupt, those who revive the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and rectify the sunnah when people abandon it or when people corrupt it, and nuzza'u min al-qaba'il, the few odd ones among each tribe, those who al-farraruna bidinihim, on the run for their deed. All of those meanings apply to this type of ghurba, or this category of ghurba. Then the last one, the third one, and that usually when you get to the third level, the Shaykh is talking about fana, the Shaykh is talking about self-annihilation, self-absorption, self-dissolution, to be self-absorbed, not self-absorbed, but absorption in the divine. So it's self-annihilation into the divine, meaning your beholding of the divine makes you not behold your own, not feel your own self, or not recognize your own self, because the only thing that you are concerned with is the divine. It's a level of focus, it's a level of attention on a goal that is intense, that makes you forget your own existence, or not even feel your own existence. He said غربة الهمة وهي غربة طلب الحق وهي غربة العارف لأن العارف في شاهده غريب ومصحوبه في شاهده غريب وموجوده لا يحمله علم أو يظهره حد وجد أو يقوم به رسم أو تطيقه إشارة أو يشمله اسم غريب فغربة العارف غربة الغربة لأنه غريب الدنيا والآخرة. Okay, الدرجة الثالثة غربة الهمة. The third level is the distinction of resolve. وهي غربة طلب الحق. This is the strangeness in pursuit of al-haq, the true one. Al-haq is the true one, which is Allah, the true one, the necessary existent. That is why they call him the true one, because our existence is contingent. We're disposable. Like if we are not around, the world will still be here. Can we imagine the world without you? Well, absolutely. Can you imagine the world without any one of us? Well, absolutely. Can you imagine the world without all of us? Absolutely. There could be still a universe. But can you imagine the world without the maker? Absolutely not. Necessary existent, that's what it means. So that's why they call God Allah, the true one, al-Haq. وهي غربة العارف لأن العارف في شهده غريب. It is the strangeness of the Arif. The Arif, as we said, is the one who has the inner knowledge, the beneficent knowledge of the interior. Not only the knowledge of the tongue, but the knowledge of the heart. Not only the knowledge, the intellectual knowledge that will help you in, debates and make you dialectically competent. Not that, but the knowledge that will make you upright and righteous. The knowledge that will make you kind and merciful. The knowledge that will make you observant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, devoted to Allah. The knowledge that will make you less pretentious, more genuine, more true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking Him alone, not seeking anything else or any suboptimal objective or goal. So that is the knowledge that they call ma'rifah. Ma'rifah. That's the knowledge of al-Arif. Because he is peculiar with regard to his witness and his companions. His finds are not delivered by knowledge, revealed by words, established by forms, expressed by signals, or outlined by definitions. The strangeness of the Arif is the epitome of all strangeness because he is a stranger in this life and the hereafter. So he says here, it is the strangeness of the Arif because he is peculiar with regard to his witness and his companions. What is his witness? His shahid. The shahid of al-Arif is his inner state. It testifies before him concerning the uprightness of his station or the uprightness of his hal, the uprightness of his state. He feels it. Like, I usually say when you're not upright, you know that you're not upright. You feel it. So al-Arif, because of shufuf al-nazar, because of the transparency of their heart, because of the light in their heart, they're able to detect any impurity of their state. They're able to detect it promptly because of their enlightenment. It's the true enlightenment, of the Arif, the knower. Okay, because he is peculiar with regard to his witness, and that witness, that testifies before him concerning the uprightness of his state, is peculiar. It is not like anyone else's. And his companions, what are his companions? Mashub wa mashubahu fi shahdihi gharib. Mashub al-Arif, three things are with the Arif as his companions. What are they? علمه وعمله وحاله. Those are the companions of the Arif. The Arif is sometimes translated as Gnostic, but we avoid Gnostic, although it would be a good translation because of some negative connotations that we can strip from it. So we call it the knower, or we just call it the Arif. So the Mashub, or the companions of the Arif, are three things: his knowledge, his actions, and his inner state, his hal. علم والعمل والحال. علمه وعمله وحاله. These are the companions of the Arif. Whenever, even if he doesn't have any companions, he will have those. And those will be enough for him to give him company. And he will not feel, he will not feel grief because of strangeness. He will feel contentment, as we said before. لهم السعادة. Sa'ada will be their lot. Dr. Abdul Wahab Azzam, just to highlight that point, that you don't have that strangeness does not mean that you does not detract or take away at all from your contentment, from your confidence, and it should never do that. It should never take away from your confidence. So Dr. Abdul Wahab Azzam was an Egyptian who was born in the 19th century, towards the end of the 19th century. He died 1959. He died in 1959. Allama Iqbal from Pakistan, all of the poetry, or most of the poetry of Allama Iqbal that was translated into Arabic was translated by Dr. Abdul Wahab Azzam, who was truly like a gem in his time. Extremely educated, extremely enlightened, and had, was extremely passionate about Islam as well. And he was, he was a professor, and he was an ambassador, and so he was surrounded. This was a time, in the Arab world in general, this was a time where people were going away from the deen. Particularly within those classes, people were basically seeking enlightenment in the wrong way. So he certainly must have felt he must have felt very lonely among those people, particularly within his class. But someone told him one day, a friend of him told him, he expressed it in poetry, قال لي صاحب أراك غريبا بين هذا الأنام دون خليلي قلت كلا بل الأنام غريب أنا في عالمي وهذه سبيلي. So قال لي صاحب, a friend or a companion said to me, أراك غريبا, I see that you are a stranger among the people, بين هذا الأنام دون خليلي, without any friends. قلت كلا, I said no, nay. بل الأنام غريب, the people are the strange ones. I am not. The people are the strangers or the strange ones. قلت كلا بل الأنام غريب أنا في عالمي وهذه سبيلي. I am in my own world and on my own path. I am in my own world and on my own path. And if you build your own town, will you be a stranger? He built his own town. He said, I am in my own world. It is my world. He built his world for himself. So if you build your own town, you'll never be a stranger in that town. But it is your own. You built it yourself. أنا في عالمي وهذه سبيلي. I am in my own world, upon my own path. So the Shaykh says, وَمَصْحُوبَهُ فِي شَهِدِهِ غَرِيبٌ, his companions are peculiar. So if he lost all companions, those 3 companions will be with him all the time, will give him company, his ilm, his knowledge, his amal, his deeds, and his hal, his inner state. His finds are not delivered by knowledge. When we talked about al-mawjudu, his finds, spiritual finds, are not delivered by knowledge, even though they are not counter to knowledge, but knowledge alone will not procure them. Certainly knowledge alone will not procure those states, unless there is devotion and effort. Not delivered by knowledge, or revealed by wajd. And we have explained in the station of wajd what wajd is about. Spiritual procurement, usually translated as ecstasy. Established by forms, his physical form is not able to establish the requirements of that station. It is something that you don't acquire by extra work or by your physical form. It's the travel of the heart. So not established by forms, expressed by signals. Even symbolism is unable to express the nature of this level or the nature of this station. Even symbolism is not able to express it. It's not expressed by signals or outlined by definitions. The strangeness of the Arif is the epitome of all strangeness, because he is a stranger in this life and the hereafter, meaning that he is stranger among the people of this life and the people of the hereafter. Even the people of the hereafter, yes, because most of them are not at his station. They cannot relate to him. He cannot relate to them. That does not mean that you become aloof or no, absolutely not, because حسنكم أخلاقا الموطؤون أكنافا الذين يألفون ويؤلفون. is the description of the best among us. الذين يألفون ويؤلفون. Those who are easygoing, that can be befriended. They, friendly, and they can be easily befriended. But yet, even though they can be easily befriended, their aspiration is different, and their journey is different from everybody's journey. That is why they are alone on this path, because everyone else is way behind them, or not even on the same path. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.